The lie you thought you got away with. There's a reason the sharpest liars in the room grow quiet when a Capricorn is present. It's not because the Capricorn said anything, it's because they didn't. They didn't react, they didn't question, they just stared, with that unsettling silence that creeps into your gut and whispers, they know. You may think your story was airtight, you may think your performance was Oscar-worthy, but when you tried to fool a Capricorn, you didn't realize you were entering a spiritual arena with someone who's already 20 steps ahead. Capricorns don't expose liars with drama. They don't scream. They don't chase you down with accusations. They just watch you walk straight into the trap you set, and then watch the trap close. And here's the thing most people never understand until it's too late. Capricorns don't just spot lies. They architect the truth. They build their lives on solid foundations, discipline, memory, structure, and wisdom passed down from Saturn itself. So when deception walks into their world, it stands out like a cracked tile on a marble floor. You see, a Capricorn isn't trying to catch you. They're not even looking for trouble. But the moment something feels off, they activate a system most people don't even know exists. A system built from years of observation, tests, quiet evaluation, and strategic patience. It doesn't just detect lies, it disassembles them, quietly, permanently. In this video, we're going to uncover the 12 specific reasons why nobody, and I mean nobody, can outsmart a Capricorn when it comes to deception. These aren't just traits, they're weapons of truth, from their razor-sharp intuition to their terrifying ability to wait in silence until you expose yourself. Capricorn doesn't just win the battle of truth. They never had to fight it, because while you were busy rehearsing your lie, they were already preparing the closing argument. So if you've ever tried to fool a Capricorn, or worse, thought you got away with it, buckle up. This might be the moment you realize they saw everything. Reason number 1, their intuition sees what you hide before you even know you're hiding it. A Capricorn doesn't need evidence to know you're lying. They feel it, not in some dramatic, emotional wave like a water sign might, but in something quieter, eerier, like the pressure change in the air right before a storm hits. It's not paranoia, it's not suspicion. It's a calibrated internal system refined over years, a subconscious radar that picks up the tiniest tremors in your tone, your phrasing, your body language. You could rehearse your story 1,000 times, master every word, memorize every detail. But the Capricorn isn't listening to your story. They're listening to the silence underneath it. I remember speaking to a woman named Elena, a Capricorn therapist in her mid-40s, with a voice as calm as winter snow. One day, during a couple's session, the husband began explaining why he'd missed their anniversary dinner. Work emergency, boss needed him, last-minute fire drill. To most people, the excuse sounded plausible. Even his wife seemed unsure, but Elena just sat there, silent, head slightly tilted, eyes narrowed, not judging, but scanning. After a long pause, she asked, "What color was the tie you wore that day?" He froze, then stammered, then tried to recover. In that exact moment, his story collapsed. Not because she had proof, but because she had instinct. She knew something didn't fit, even before she knew why it didn't. That's Capricorn intuition. And here's the part people don't realize. Capricorn intuition isn't dreamy or magical. It's built from real data collected silently across a lifetime. It's refined through experience, rejection, betrayal, and 1,000 quiet observations that no one ever knew they were making. While you're talking, they're watching your pupils dilate. While you're explaining, they're tracking your blink rate. While you're smiling, they're feeling whether the smile lands. Capricorns aren't psychic, they're precise. They know when the puzzle piece doesn't fit, even if they don't yet know what piece it's supposed to be. And once that sense kicks in, they won't chase the truth. They'll wait, because they know one thing liars always forget. Lies rot in silence. This is why so many people who thought they fooled a Capricorn start feeling strange weeks later. That uneasy feeling, that dread, that sudden tension in your stomach when you're around them, that's not guilt. It's because their energy has shifted, and you know they've shifted because they know. They don't confront, they don't accuse, they observe. And eventually, when the moment is right, they'll say one sentence that will tear through your entire narrative like lightning through dry forest. You see, intuition in a Capricorn is not reactionary, it's not impulsive. It's the first signal in a three-part system. 1, intuition lights the alert. 2, observation gathers the proof. 3, patience sets the trap. By the time you realize their energy changed, it's already too late. The story you thought you buried, they've already exhumed it, classified it, and are just waiting for the moment you hand them the final missing piece. Life lesson: trust the silent signals. In life, we often think we need proof to validate what we feel. But Capricorn teaches us something profound. What you feel, when it's born from experience, wisdom, and discipline, is often the earliest truth you'll ever receive. Your body speaks before your mind catches up. Your instincts whisper before the words are said. Learn to trust those signals, especially when they're quiet. A Capricorn doesn't doubt that still voice inside. They honor it. And because they do, they see what others miss, long before the evidence arrives. So, the next time you feel that strange tightening in your gut, that pause in the conversation, that shift in someone's tone, listen. That might be your Capricorn instinct speaking, and it's rarely wrong. Reason number 2, they study you like a scientist, quiet, systematic, and unshakably accurate. Capricorns don't guess. They don't make assumptions, they collect data. From the very first moment they meet you, they're observing, not because they're suspicious, but because it's how they survive. They're not looking for flaws or fishing for gossip. They're building a blueprint of who you are, how you behave, what you value, and how consistent you remain under pressure. Most people talk. Capricorns watch, and what you don't notice is that they're cataloging everything. The tone you use when you're nervous, the rhythm of your speech when you're confident, the types of stories you repeat, the gaps between what you say and what you actually do. This isn't intuition anymore, this is fieldwork. Capricorns operate like lifelong behavioral scientists, even if they've never read a psychology textbook. They've built their knowledge through decades of real-world exposure in friendships, relationships, jobs, failures, betrayals. While others react, they record. One client once told me about her Capricorn father. She said, "When I was a teenager, I thought I was getting away with sneaking out. He never punished me, never asked questions. Then one day, after I lied again, he walked into my room and handed me a folder. It had dates, times, notes, even printouts of text messages from the family phone plan. He said, 'I've known for 8 months. I just wanted to see how far you were willing to go.' That's Capricorn. They don't confront without clarity. They don't accuse without patterns. And they never speak unless the structure of their proof is airtight. What's even more chilling is that they don't just observe when they suspect something. They observe everyone, all the time. Why? Because for a Capricorn, understanding human behavior isn't just a skill, it's a tool for survival. They've learned early on that people can smile while they lie, make promises they never keep, and pretend to care while secretly manipulating. So instead of blindly trusting, they build baselines, quiet internal models of your character, and test it across time, context, and pressure. What looks like aloofness, it's data gathering. What seems like cold silence, it's strategic observation. They'll note what you said last month and see if you contradict it today. They'll remember your core values and compare them to how you treat others when no one's watching. They're not just waiting for proof, they're building a case. And here's what makes their approach so unstoppable. You'll never realize it's happening. Capricorns don't grill you, chase you, or force you to confess. They simply let you reveal yourself. Slowly, inevitably, fully. By the time they decide you're lying, they don't think you are. They know you are. Because your story failed the most unforgiving test of all, consistency under Capricorn scrutiny. They've tested your behavior across contexts, cross-referenced your words across time, watched your patterns from the background while you thought no one was looking. And when the confrontation finally comes, if it ever comes, it will be with evidence so complete, so calmly delivered, that you'll have no choice but to acknowledge the truth. They won't yell, they won't accuse, they'll simply say, "This doesn't align with what you told me before." And the silence that follows, that's the moment most deceivers realize they were never in control. Capricorn was never reacting, they were recording. Life lesson: patterns never lie. There's a saying among psychologists: past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Capricorn lives by this truth. They remind us that who someone says they are is never as important as who they repeatedly prove themselves to be. In a world obsessed with words, promises, and instant impressions, Capricorn teaches us to zoom out, to look not just at moments, but at patterns, to remember that truth is consistent and lies always crack under repetition. If you want to understand someone, don't listen harder, watch longer, because under Capricorn's gaze, nothing escapes the pattern, and once it's clear, so is the truth. Reason number 3, their patience outlasts your performance. Always. Deception takes energy. It takes focus. It takes memory. And the longer you have to keep a lie going, the more exhausting it becomes, unless you're dealing with a Capricorn. Because while you're busy maintaining your script, managing impressions, and improvising your next excuse, Capricorn is doing what they do best: waiting. They're not just giving you rope, they're handing you the entire spool and watching as you tie the noose yourself. Because what most people underestimate is this: Capricorn's patience isn't passive, it's tactical. They wait with intent. They observe without pressure. They give you time, not because they're unsure, but because time always exposes what ego tries to hide. And this patience isn't built from indifference, it's built from experience. Capricorns have learned, again and again, that falsehood always cracks under its own weight. No need to rush, no need to demand confessions. They let reality do the talking. Let me tell you about Jacob, a Capricorn manager at a corporate investment firm in Chicago. He suspected one of his team members, Alex, had been taking credit for others' work during presentations. But instead of calling him out, Jacob stayed quiet. He let it unfold. Week after week, meeting after meeting, Jacob simply watched. He noted language patterns, observed email timestamps, tracked who truly completed what tasks behind the scenes. 3 months later, the team was asked to present at an executive board review. Jacob sat at the back. He didn't say a word during the meeting. He didn't need to, because halfway through, Alex froze, caught between a question and a claim he couldn't back up. The executives looked confused. Jacob stood up, walked to the front, and calmly handed out a compiled folder of timelines, emails, task assignments, and collaboration reports. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't gloat. He just said, "These are the facts. I'll let the team decide what they mean." That's how Capricorn delivers truth, not as a weapon, but as a mirror. You see, patience isn't just a virtue for Capricorn, it's a calculated advantage. They understand that lies decay, stories change, and the burden of maintaining dishonesty always grows heavier with time. Where other signs may push for answers, challenge inconsistencies, or confront in the moment, Capricorn steps back and lets the gap between word and action grow wide enough for you to fall through on your own. And when that happens, they'll be standing right where you left them, unmoved, unrattled, prepared, because the longer you perform, the more footage they collect. And Capricorns? They're not watching for the sake of drama, they're archiving. This is what unnerves so many people who try to fool them. You expect emotion, you expect retaliation. Instead, you get silence. And that silence is loud. It's the kind that echoes, the kind that stretches across weeks, sometimes months, while you keep checking over your shoulder, wondering, do they know? The answer? They always knew. They just weren't done watching. Life lesson. Time doesn't lie. Capricorn teaches us one of the hardest spiritual truths. If something is false, time will reveal it. You don't need to chase down liars. You don't need to force confessions. You simply need to let time do what it always does. Strip away the show. In a world addicted to instant reactions, instant exposure, instant everything, Capricorn shows us the power of stillness, that real wisdom doesn't need a stage, and real truth doesn't need to shout. So the next time you feel pressured to prove yourself or expose someone else's dishonesty too soon, pause and ask yourself, can I trust time to do what ego wants to rush? Because Capricorn does. And in that trust, they almost always win. Reason number 4, they trust actions over words. Always, unapologetically, you can say all the right things, dress it up, make it poetic, deliver it with emotion, sincerity, and even a trembling voice if you like. But if you're speaking to a Capricorn, none of it matters until it shows up in your actions. Capricorns live by one simple rule: words are intentions, actions are evidence. It's not that they're cynical, it's not that they're emotionally blocked, it's that they have seen too many people promise loyalty and deliver betrayal. Too many "I'll be there's" that turned into "I forgot." Too many dreams painted in gold that turned out to be spray-painted illusions. So now, when someone speaks, a Capricorn listens quietly, not with their heart, but with their timeline. They think, okay, let's see if you show up. And when you don't, they don't confront you, they don't even explain. They simply adjust their expectations downward, silently, permanently. There was a Capricorn man I once interviewed, a firefighter in his late 30s named Travis. He told me that in his line of work, trust is life or death. He said, you don't care what someone says in the locker room. You care what they do when you're in a burning building. One time, a new recruit kept talking about how reliable he was, how brave he'd be under pressure. Travis didn't comment, didn't push back, didn't challenge him. But 3 weeks later, during a real emergency, the guy froze under stress, hesitated, delayed. After that day, Travis never partnered with him again. Not because he was angry, but because, in his words, now I know he's a speech guy, not a smoke guy. That's how Capricorns operate in every part of life. You can declare love, you can pledge support, you can write the most beautiful apology letter ever crafted. But if your feet don't move, if your hands don't act, if your calendar doesn't match your mouth, then to a Capricorn, it's as if you said nothing at all. They're not here for the performance. They're here for the proof. This doesn't just apply to relationships. It applies to work, family, friendships, even self-presentation. Say you value honesty? Then why do you change your story depending on who's in the room? Say you support them? Then why do you disappear when things get hard? Capricorns notice these gaps, not emotionally, but structurally. They track where your claims should have manifested and observe whether they ever did. And when they don't, they close the file, move on, lesson logged. It's not punishment, it's protection. Because for a Capricorn, trusting words without behavior is like building a house on fog, and they didn't climb all the way up this mountain just to fall through a mirage. Life lesson, look for alignment, not just intention. There's a kind of emotional maturity that comes with age, the ability to look at what people do, not just what they say. Capricorn embodies that maturity from an early age. They remind us, consistency matters more than charisma. Follow through matters more than flair. If someone says they care, watch how they act when you're struggling. If someone says they're reliable, watch what happens when you need them most. If someone says they're sorry, see if they change. Don't let beautiful words cloud a crooked pattern. Don't confuse emotional performance for genuine presence. Capricorn doesn't, and neither should you. Reason number 5, their memory archives everything, and it's all time-stamped. Capricorns don't forget. They don't just remember what you said, they remember when you said it, how you said it, and what you were wearing when you said it. It's not about being petty, it's about being precise. Capricorns are ruled by Saturn, the Lord of Time. And as strange as it sounds, it almost feels like they carry time differently, not as a straight line, but as a living, breathing map they can scroll through in their mind. When you lie to a Capricorn, you're not just crossing their boundaries, You're stepping into a mental vault of chronologically indexed data. Your lie isn't just heard, it's stored, categorized, and compared against every other thing you've ever said. To you, it's just a white lie. To them, it's a blinking anomaly in a sea of patterns. I once spoke to a Capricorn woman named Shayla. She was in HR, the type of professional who never missed a beat. Years ago, a department manager tried to cover up a mishandled project by blaming his assistant. He was slick, charismatic, polished, believable. Shayla listened, took notes, asked no dramatic questions. Then she went back to an email sent 6 months earlier with the manager's signature on it, approving the exact process he now claimed he'd never seen. She also dug up a Slack conversation that contradicted his claims and quietly interviewed 2 team members who remembered the original directive. When the time was right, she called him into her office. She didn't yell, she didn't accuse. She simply opened her folder, placed the printed emails and timelines on the desk, and said, "Help me understand how these fit with what you told me yesterday." There was nothing to say. He'd been caught, not by confrontation, but by perfect recall. This is how Capricorn memory works. They don't weaponize it until they have to. And when they do, it's not about vengeance, it's about restoring order. Capricorns log everything, promises made in passing, excuses given under pressure, dates, times, and inconsistencies others forget 5 minutes later. They don't always call you out the moment a red flag appears. They wait. They build the file. And when the moment arrives, it's not revenge, it's resolution. That's why people often underestimate them. They confuse quiet for clueless. They think, if they didn't call me out, I got away with it. But what they don't see is that the Capricorn was archiving, silently, meticulously, like a cosmic librarian of truth. By the time they speak, they don't need to win the argument. They just open the drawer and read the record. And you won't be able to deny it, because it's not just a feelings, it's a fact-based timeline that leaves no room for slippery talk. Life lesson: memory is your accountability partner. Capricorn shows us that integrity isn't built on how persuasive we are in the moment. It's built on the consistency of our actions and words over time. In a world that often forgets what it said yesterday, the Capricorn's memory is a quiet call to accountability. If you want to build trust, don't rely on charm, rely on consistency. Don't worry about saying the perfect thing, worry about living it repeatedly. Your patterns will always testify louder than your performance. Capricorn knows this, and now, maybe, you do too. Reason number 6, they're masters of the long game. While you're focused on the moment, they're planning the outcome. Most people live moment to moment. They react, they respond, they scramble, but not Capricorn. While others are busy managing the crisis in front of them, Capricorn is already thinking 3 steps ahead. Not because they're manipulative, but because they respect time more than drama. Capricorn isn't trying to win an argument. They're trying to win the structure, not the fight, but the framework the fight lives in. And that's where they become unstoppable. Because where many seek immediate closure, Capricorn seeks permanent clarity. Where others demand fast answers, they patiently allow the full pattern to unfold. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates this. A Capricorn woman named Nia was working in a nonprofit as a director of finance. She suspected a colleague was misusing discretionary funds, not drastically, but consistently. Instead of confronting him immediately, she began collecting small anomalies. Meal receipts logged during vacation days, personal purchases masked as program costs, and inconsistent expense descriptions. Did she say anything? No. She created a spreadsheet, built a timeline, organized data. And then she waited. Not days, not weeks, 6 months. Then one day, when the organization's board requested an internal audit, she submitted her file. Complete, unshakable, quietly devastating. The fallout? He was dismissed without argument. And Naya never had to say a single accusatory word. She simply let time reveal what arrogance tried to hide. That's the power of a Capricorn's long game. They don't need to rush because they know lies decay, egos reveal themselves, and falsehood can't hold shape across multiple seasons of life. While others are fixated on the short-term win, Capricorn is building long-term evidence and preparing for the moment when the lie can no longer survive in the light of time. Capricorns don't play checkers, they play chess. And not just any chess, slow chess, the kind where every move is designed to control the board, not just capture a piece. This is why their silence is often so unnerving. Because they're not checking out, they're checking everything. They're watching your story unfold across time, checking for inconsistencies not in your sentence, but in your season. And when the final piece falls into place, they move with quiet, calculated precision. They don't expose people out of anger. They let people expose themselves and then quietly close the door behind them. Life lesson: you don't have to rush the truth. Capricorn teaches us something sacred, something rare in a world obsessed with instant reaction. You don't have to rush the truth. When you know what's real, you can wait. When your position is rooted in reality, you don't need to shout. When you've studied the long game, the game eventually plays itself in your favor. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply allow time to do what confrontation cannot. Let liars get comfortable. Let patterns reveal themselves. Let the weight of their own choices show the truth you've known all along. Capricorn reminds us that time isn't just passing, it's watching. And for those who try to deceive, they never realize until it's too late that Capricorn was never playing the moment. They were setting the board. Reason number 7, they consult their inner circle. And that circle is ironclad. You might think you're dealing with one person, one Capricorn, one pair of eyes, one mind, one judgment. But what you don't see is that behind every Capricorn who seems quiet and composed is a council, not of followers, not of casual friends, but of trusted minds, hand-picked over years, sometimes decades. Capricorns may appear solitary, but don't mistake their independence for isolation. They are highly selective, not antisocial. And in that selectivity lies one of their greatest sources of clarity, the inner circle. These are not people who flatter them. These are not yes men or ego boosters. These are individuals who have passed Capricorn's tests of integrity, logic, emotional steadiness, and loyalty. And once admitted into the circle, they serve a powerful, sometimes invisible role: truth calibration. When a Capricorn has a suspicion, they don't always act on it right away. Instead, they present it, calmly, without bias, to a trusted voice and say, "What do you see?" And that's where the real work begins. Because now, your deception, if it exists, isn't just facing one brilliant mind. It's being quietly examined through multiple lenses. The emotionally intuitive friend who can feel tension through tone, the analytical colleague who can break your logic like glass, the spiritually grounded elder who reads energy before words are even spoken. One person might miss it, but 3? Not likely. And the most terrifying part? You'll never know it's happening. You won't be interrogated, you won't be warned, you'll simply be quietly verified from angles you never saw coming. Let me tell you about Devon, a Capricorn small business owner from Portland. He had a vendor who kept overpromising on delivery deadlines. Devon had a hunch something was off, but instead of confronting, he brought it up to his logistics manager, a Capricorn moon, and his operations assistant, a Virgo. He casually said, "Have you noticed anything weird with this distributor?" Within 48 hours, his team unearthed backlogged orders, inflated invoices, and discrepancies in communications. Devon said nothing to the vendor, until one day, during a quarterly review, he slid a report across the table and said, "I'm restructuring our terms moving forward, based on these findings." There was no fight, there was no warning, just consequence. Clean, justified, irreversible. That's the power of Capricorn's counsel. By the time they act, the data has already been verified from multiple sources, and that means your story has been measured and found lacking. Life lesson: wisdom grows in discernment. Capricorn reminds us that strength is not always solo. Sometimes real wisdom lies in knowing who to trust, how to listen, and when to verify. You don't have to be an island. You just need to build your circle carefully. Surround yourself with people who tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. See through surface charm, value clarity over comfort, and most importantly, people who hold you accountable. Capricorns don't build their inner circle fast. They build it right. And once it's in place, that circle becomes a fortress of discernment where lies go to die. Reason number 8. Their analytical skills are unmatched, breaking down lies like equations. If intuition is their radar and observation is their camera, then Capricorn's analytical mind is their microscope, and it doesn't miss a single crack. You might think you've covered your tracks. You may have built a convincing narrative, rehearsed your tone, fine-tuned your expressions. But Capricorn isn't just listening to what you say. They're testing it. They're breaking it into pieces, comparing it to reality, asking themselves, does this hold up logically? Does this align with everything else I know? And when it doesn't, they don't panic. They don't argue. They calculate. Capricorns are ruled by Saturn, the planet of structure, systems, and accountability. And those qualities shape how they approach information. They don't jump to conclusions. They construct them carefully, methodically, like a courtroom case with time-stamped evidence, not assumptions. Let me tell you about Marcus, a Capricorn project director in the tech sector. A vendor once pitched him a big new platform for streamlining internal communications. It looked great on the surface, flashy interface, strong pitch, big promises. But Marcus didn't get excited. Instead, he asked for a detailed cost breakdown across 12 months, a side-by-side performance comparison with 3 competitors, a projected ROI timeline with milestones. The vendor stumbled, hesitated, over-explained. Marcus didn't need to confront him. He simply said, if your numbers don't hold under scrutiny, your pitch isn't ready for reality. That's the Capricorn code. Ideas must survive analysis, or they don't survive at all. This is exactly why lies rarely survive long around Capricorn. They don't believe in trusting their feelings about something. They ask, what's the motive? What does the pattern show? What are the inconsistencies in behavior versus logic? They challenge their own theories. They play devil's advocate against themselves, not because they're insecure, but because they understand one thing most people avoid. Truth doesn't fear pressure. And if your story falls apart under Capricorn's quiet, methodical questioning, they know it wasn't the truth to begin with. Their analytical approach is also deeply disciplined. They don't obsess over the unknown. They focus on what can be verified, cross-checked, and logically modeled. They don't need to know your every move, just enough to test whether your claims stand up to scrutiny. If they do, you earn their cautious respect. If they don't scream, they don't gossip. They just file it under not trustworthy and adjust accordingly. Capricorns don't run around exposing everyone. They expose only what matters, at the right time, to the right people, with facts no one can deny. Life lesson. Emotion feels. Analysis confirms. Capricorn reminds us of the importance of mental clarity in a world flooded with manipulation. We are often taught to trust our heart, but Capricorn teaches us to also train our mind, to question, test, analyze, and refuse easy answers. Not every smile is sincere. Not every apology is real. Not every excuse is earned. If something doesn't make sense, don't ignore that just to keep the peace. Ask questions. Examine the data. Trust what holds up under pressure, not just what makes you feel better in the moment. Capricorn knows truth is resilient, deception is fragile. And when you think like a Capricorn, lies break themselves. Reason number 9. They've seen every trick before, and they don't fall for the same one. Twice there's a particular look a Capricorn gives you when you're trying to impress them, and they've seen this exact move before. It's not anger, it's not suspicion, it's recognition. Because while you think you're being clever, they're already flipping through their internal archive like, page 37, Manipulation via Flattery, version 3.2. Capricorns don't just live in the present, they carry every lesson forward, catalogued, cross-referenced, and permanently embedded in their judgment. They don't romanticize their past, they study it. Every betrayal, a case study, every lie, a pattern, every emotional wound, an archived warning. That's why they're almost immune to being fooled the same way twice. I remember a Capricorn man named Owen who once told me, I may have fallen for charm at 24, but by 25, I could smell it from 2 rooms away. This isn't bitterness, it's evolution. Capricorn's experience sharpens them. It doesn't shut them down. They don't build walls to avoid life. They build filters to clarify it. They begin to recognize guilt tactics masquerading as apologies, love bombing disguised as affection, victim playing used to avoid accountability, fake humility weaponized to disarm criticism. And once they've identified it once, they'll never unsee it again. It's like a spiritual immune system. Once exposed, they develop resistance, and no matter how good the performance is next time, they already know how it ends. Let me give you a real-world story. Samantha, a Capricorn in her early 40s, had a boss who used the classic divide and conquer management tactic, praising one team member privately while subtly tearing down another. It created confusion, insecurity, and fierce competition among her team. At first, Samantha thought she was just being rewarded for good work. But the pattern repeated. Each new hire was played the same way. She didn't blow up. She didn't gossip. She documented everything, built alliances quietly, and when the company opened an anonymous feedback channel, she submitted a full report with dates, quotes, and impact summaries. The manager was removed 3 months later. No confrontation, no drama, just pattern recognition plus strategy equals truth revealed. This is how Capricorn works. They don't get stuck in the story you're telling them. They pull back and say, where have I seen this before? And once they recognize the game, they stop playing and start setting the rules. This doesn't mean they're paranoid, it means they're prepared. Capricorn is not here to relive the same painful lesson twice. So they watch, they learn, they adapt, and then they upgrade their boundaries. Life lesson. Wisdom isn't just what you learn, it's what you apply. Capricorn teaches us that real growth doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from learning from it, studying it, extracting the lesson, and adjusting your behavior accordingly. How many times have we repeated the same mistake with a different name? How many people have we trusted because they felt different, only to discover they were exactly the same, just in better packaging? Capricorn doesn't do that anymore, because once the disguise is recognized, the illusion collapses. You don't have to become hardened, you have to become wiser. And when you carry your lessons like Capricorn does, you don't become paranoid, you become protected. Reason number 10. Their self-trust is unshakable. They don't need you to confirm what they already know. Capricorns don't need a second opinion. They don't need your approval, your validation, or your applause. They already know, and they know because they've tested it. In a world full of doubt, gaslighting, second-guessing, and emotional manipulation, Capricorn stands out as the sign that has built a fortress within. This self-trust is not born from arrogance. It's not fragile ego. It's not stubborn refusal to be wrong. It's something far more powerful and far more rare, a calibrated inner compass. While others look outward to find clarity, Capricorn turns inward, not because they're closed off, but because they've trained themselves to listen to their own signals and then verify those signals against reality. And over time, that process creates confidence not based on feelings, but on proof. Let's be clear, this kind of self-trust isn't flashy. It doesn't shout. It doesn't dominate conversations. It just sits there, like a mountain, silent, steady, unmoved. I once heard a story about a Capricorn woman named Liana, a teacher and mother of 2. She suspected her younger sister was borrowing money from their aging father behind the family's back. Her husband thought she was being paranoid. Her mother told her she was imagining things, but the feeling wouldn't go away. It kept returning in her gut. So, Liana started checking financial records. She noticed small withdrawals, regular, subtle, just under the radar. She didn't accuse, she didn't panic. She waited until she gathered enough to understand the full scope. When the truth surfaced months later, through a legal matter no less, everyone around her said, "Wait, how did you know?" She didn't say much, just smiled and said, "I trusted my gut, and my gut's not a beginner." That's the essence of Capricorn. They don't ignore warning signs just because someone tells them to relax. They don't second-guess themselves when the facts back up their instinct, and they certainly don't let emotional manipulation override internal evidence. Because Capricorn knows, gaslighting only works when you're unsure of yourself. And that's the one space Capricorn has already secured. You can try to twist their words, make them feel guilty, convince them they're too cold, too suspicious, too harsh, but it won't work. Because they've built their judgment like a craftsman builds a tool, with time, precision, and tested reliability. And once they know something, they don't unknow it. They don't ask, "Am I overreacting?" They ask, "What have I seen? What do I know? What does the evidence say?" And if all of those point to one conclusion, they won't let your emotions derail their truth. That's not cold, that's mastery. Life lesson: stand on verified ground. Capricorn teaches us that real self-trust isn't loud confidence, it's quiet clarity. You don't build it through compliments, you build it by testing your judgment, learning from your missteps, verifying your instincts, and refining your standards over time. This world will constantly try to shake your clarity. People will project their fears onto you. Others will try to distort what you saw and felt. But Capricorn says, if you did the work, trust the results. Don't let noise override your inner knowing. Don't abandon truth just because someone else finds it inconvenient. Because when you stand on verified ground, you can't be moved. Reason, Merle 11. They control the environment, so you expose yourself. Capricorn doesn't chase the truth. They set the stage for it. Where other signs might interrogate, argue, or emotionally confront, Capricorn takes a different path. They change the conditions of the room until the lie breaks itself. And you won't realize it's happening, because when Capricorn controls the environment, they're not trying to catch you, they're giving you the space to reveal yourself. It starts subtly. They organize systems, they structure communication, they build timelines, meetings, documentation, things that seem ordinary on the surface, but are actually creating a landscape of clarity. In that landscape, inconsistency stands out like a fire alarm in a silent church. Capricorns are masters of non-confrontational exposure. They don't need to drag you into the light. They just remove the shadows. Let me share a striking example. Daniel, a Capricorn executive at a real estate firm, suspected one of his junior partners was misrepresenting sales figures. But instead of accusing him, Daniel restructured the weekly meetings. He added group reporting segments, introduced cross-verification between departments, and quietly requested timestamps on all submitted data. The junior partner, confident in his manipulation, played along. Until one day, he contradicted his own figures of hours in front of the accounting lead. Daniel said nothing. The numbers had already done the talking. The environment had delivered the verdict. This is what makes Capricorn dangerous. Not their confrontation, but their structure. They don't force exposure, they design it. And what's more, Capricorns understand something most people don't. Lies need privacy to survive. They need chaos. They need unstructured rooms, unverifiable conversations, emotional noise. So what does Capricorn do? They create clarity, document everything, introduce transparency, bring stakeholders into the same room, repeat questions across different settings. They wait while you tell your story, again and again. And each time, they listen for the version shift, the timeline slippage, the unraveling. It's not a trap, it's a system. And by the time you realize the environment was built to test you, the test is already over. Life lesson: control the space, not the person. Capricorn teaches us that if you want the truth, you don't always need to corner someone. You just need to remove the wiggle room. Clarity doesn't come from louder voices. It comes from better systems. Instead of chasing people down, build conditions where truth becomes the only outcome that fits. Want to know who's loyal? See how they act when things are no longer convenient. Want to catch a lie? Ask the same question in 3 different rooms and compare the answers. Capricorn's wisdom is this: if you build the right environment, the mask always falls. You don't have to control people, just create conditions where truth is the only thing that survives. Reason number 12. Their revenge is strategic, not emotional. And that's what makes it devastating. When Capricorn is hurt, they don't scream. They don't spiral. They don't seek chaos. They recalibrate. You see, Capricorn doesn't believe in impulsive revenge, because to them, reaction is weakness. And emotional retaliation is still giving you their energy. They'd rather take something else from you, your illusion of power. Capricorn's revenge isn't about getting back. It's about resetting the equation, so the universe corrects the imbalance without them having to lift their voice. They don't hit you where it hurts. They let natural consequence do it for them. But don't be fooled. This is not passivity. It's precision. Because once a Capricorn sees who you really are, they shift everything. They revoke access. They restructure the dynamic. They remove support you didn't even know they were providing. And they do it calmly, silently, completely. Let me share a story that illustrates this. Rita, a Capricorn woman in her early 50s, had been supporting her best friend's boutique for years. Marketing help, client referrals, even rent assistance during hard times. One day, she learned that her friend had been spreading subtle rumors behind her back, positioning herself as the real brains behind their social circle and minimizing Rita's contributions. Did Rita confront her in front of everyone? No. Did she unleash an emotional monologue? Absolutely not. She simply stopped referring clients, declined marketing support, politely withdrew from shared spaces, and quietly let her friend's empire lose its scaffolding. The boutique closed 6 months later. No revenge, no confrontation, just withdrawal of unearned privilege. That's Capricorn revenge. You don't even realize it's happening until your foundation crumbles. And then, when you look up, they're already gone because they don't need to punish you. They just stop protecting you from the consequences of your own behavior. What's even more poetic? They often tailor the consequence to match the deception. If you lied about your skills, they'll assign you a task that exposes your bluff. If you took credit for their work, they'll let you stand alone and fail. If you betrayed their trust, they'll never say a word, but you'll feel the cold silence where their loyalty used to be. This isn't pettiness, it's poetic structure. Capricorns live by the laws of natural balance, and when those laws are broken, they don't panic. They simply step aside and let reality restore itself. And the lesson is never forgotten. Life lesson: the best revenge is alignment. Capricorn teaches us a profound truth. You don't have to destroy people to defeat them. You just have to remove your energy from systems that no longer honor you. Let people face the results of their own choices, and trust that when you act from clarity, not ego, the universe takes care of the rest. There's power in not reacting. There's wisdom in walking away. There's mastery in letting the system you built, the space you provided, speak louder than your words ever could. Capricorn doesn't look back. They let go and level up. Because their revenge is not about hurting you, it's about reminding you and everyone watching that the truth has a long memory. And Capricorn, they never forget. Conclusion. The silent power of truth, Capricorn's gift to us all. Now that you've walked through all 12 reasons why nobody can truly fool a Capricorn, one truth becomes undeniably clear. Capricorn doesn't chase lies. They outlast them. From their razor-sharp intuition, to their scientific observation, to their memory that never forgets, their strategic patience, their trust in action, their mastery of environments, every trait forms a single, unstoppable system, a quiet, calibrated devotion to truth. They don't rely on performance. They don't get lost in emotional chaos. They don't expose people because they want revenge. They simply remove what doesn't belong and keep climbing. And here's the lesson for the rest of us. We all live in a world full of noise, where charisma often overshadows character and sweet words are used to cover bitter intentions. But Capricorn teaches us that truth isn't loud, it's consistent, it's observable, and it stands strong over time, even when tested by betrayal, pressure, or manipulation. If you are a Capricorn, let this video be a mirror that reflects the quiet wisdom you carry, the strength in your silence, the clarity in your logic, the power in your restraint. And if you're not a Capricorn, but you've ever been underestimated, ever been lied to and made to doubt your own intuition, ever had to stand in your truth alone with no applause, then maybe there's more Capricorn in you than you think. So I leave you with this. You don't have to shout to be right. You don't have to prove what time will reveal. And you don't have to chase what isn't yours to keep. Let people talk. Let masks fall. Let time do what ego cannot. Just do what Capricorn always does. Observe. Wait. And when the moment comes, move with quiet precision. If this resonated with you, it's time to join a community that sees through the surface and celebrates deeper truths. Subscribe now to Zodiac Secrets Revealed, where we decode the wisdom of the stars, one sign at a time. Drop a comment below. Have you ever watched someone underestimate a Capricorn and live to regret it? Or are you a Capricorn who's been silently watching, quietly waiting, and finally ready to move? Let your story be the one that helps someone else wake up. We read every comment, we honor every truth, and we welcome every seeker. Until next time, stay clear, stay strong, and trust the path that only truth can build.